Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Perfectly Blended Podcast, Season 5, Episode 4. Today, we're actually going to talk about something that we've never talked about before, and we want to talk about marriage and money. That's coming up
right now.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Perfectly Blended Podcast. This podcast is for blended families, for couples that want to strengthen their marriage and want a brighter future. Perfectly Blended exists to break the stigma of divorce, drop the shame and guilt holding you back, and equip marriages to thrive instead of just survive. We believe all that is possible in this life is based on the power of Jesus Christ and His ability to restore us fully. Let's dive in. What is up, everybody? Welcome to today's show, Marriage and Money. That's what we're going to be talking about on today's show. So, anyway, before we get started, my gorgeous bride, what's on your mind, love?
Today, our puppy is 12 weeks old, and she is so adorable. I posted pictures of her on Facebook if you want to see her.
Yeah.
You can go to our Facebook and look at her, Josh and Christy Groce. .com. No.
Josh Christy Groce.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
On Facebook.
Because you can't have couples pages, which is weird to me.
That is weird.
Isn't that weird?
That is weird. That's why we should be turning it into a fan page. Then it probably wouldn't matter. But she's 12 weeks old today, and things are starting to get a little bit better with her. She is sleeping better through the night.
She is. She actually is.
Yeah.
A little bit better. But of course, we got a little bit of good sleep. And then, of course, last night we stayed up entirely too late. And now today we're tired again. So
that's because the movie was on called Good Will Hunting.
And we've only seen it like probably 10 times. But we're like, we have to stay up and watch it even though it's recorded. And we're just so crazy.
We're dumb.
Like we are absolutely stupid people. Like there's no doubt about it.
So today we are talking about marriage and money.
Mm-hmm. Marriage and money. And I think that's, here it is. But I think that's something that is almost barely ever talked about when it comes to marriage in general, much less, blended families. And I think it's just something that's really, really, it's a difficult topic because there's so many different points of views and there's so many different things that people could say are good, that are bad, that work different in each relationship. And there is, but I think there's some ground rule things that really do, thank you. The point is that there's ground rule things that apply to everybody's relationship, especially when it comes to money, that we believe that everybody should take into account. And so that's what we're going to talk about today.
Well, even after we decided that we were going to talk about this, what was so funny is that I started thinking about, it's not just the 4 points that we're going to talk about today. Like when Josh and I first got together, as many of you know, Josh works for our church part-time. I'm the breadwinner of the home. I'm the one that has the full-time job. And I had to sign up for like life insurance policies and things like that. And I remember when I first was filling them out, I'm like, well, I want to give my kids 30%, like each of them 30, like Garrett and Graydon each have 30%, and then each of your kids have 20%. Because I'm thinking like, if I die, like both of your kids still have both of their parents and my kids won't, and Josh is like, well, what is the tone that's setting for our relationship? If you die and then my kids get less money and all of these things. So not that I didn't die now and the kids are grown and they wouldn't care. But
forget those kids now.
Well, they'd care about money, but they wouldn't. They wouldn't think that someone was playing favoritism over someone else.
I agree.
It's just those types of things actually are about money too. That isn't points that we're going to talk about tonight. I just thought like we've had a few things come up about like the kids getting their own bank accounts and who's going to, Josh and I are both on all of our kids' bank accounts, but the other parents aren't, if that came up. There's lots of things.
And that never became a problem, which I believe us, we understand like everybody's family dynamic's different. Yeah. And our dynamic, it didn't ever become an issue. And I know that could become a major issue.
Yeah. So a lot of when I started thinking about like the money aspect of it, I'm like, wow, there's actually so many more points than just what we're going to talk about today. It's about life insurance policies and retirement and how much savings you guys are going to save and Like, what is your plans for when you get older and you do retire? That is money. That's finances, So there's so much more to this topic than just these four. We could probably turn it into 2 podcasts about it. But.
Yeah, we could. Absolutely, because everybody's situation is different.
Yeah.
Not everybody comes into a blended family with all of these things, and some do come into these to a new marriage with all of these things. So,
yeah.
But a lot of the points we're going to make today can kind of blanket cover a lot of these things.
Yeah.
So let's just kick it right off with the first thing. The first thing is it's so important that you have a joint checking account.
Yeah. And Josh and I mean, this is obviously our opinion. We feel like if people keep their separate bank accounts when they get together, they're not even willing to combine their finances. That could be just a small sliver of compromise or maybe distrust that lingers in the relationship that you don't think about. Now, I did see, how Steve Harvey talks about, he's like a motivational speaker before his talk shows and stuff. I did see a talk where he was like, before people get married, they should have 4 bank accounts. They should have a savings. They should have a joint savings, a joined bank account, and then the guy should keep his own and the woman should keep her own. So a joint bank account, a bank account that pays all the bills.
Yeah.
So they deposit their portions in it to pay the bills. And then him have one and her have one. So they each could do special things for each other.
Sure.
And not have to say, hey, I'm going to throw you a surprise birthday party, so they could hide it better type of thing. But I think depends on the relationship.
I do. And I think we kind of lead into the point of why you you would be able to do that with one of the points we're going to make later. But I think having a joint account now, I think when you, like Christy's saying, you can have your own account. Nobody's saying that that's necessarily a problem, right? You can have your own account. But coming together and then creating a joint account is super important. And it's because when we say that God creates us as one, as a couple, we really have to mean that in all aspects. We should have an account that we have together, which means it forces us to make decisions together. It forces a lot of things, which is good. And in the beginning, that can be hard.
Well, and in some relationships like ours, only one person works. I know that's less heard of anymore in this day and age.
Yeah.
But it's very, very important. Like if only one person's working, you should have one joint account because my money is his money. It's our money, so it shouldn't be, because I know some guys get like that. Like, well, I make the money, so I'm going to give you a budget, an allowance, I should say, an allowance that you get. And it's like, no, let's sit down and let's talk about finances together. It's our finances,
Yeah, it's household money. And I know a lot of times I've seen where one parent, like the guy, he has to pay a lot of child support to his ex-wife. And then the new wife is like, oh, that's not coming out of my pocket. That's not coming out of, us. But it is though.
Yeah.
It is though. And so those are the things that are uncomfortable, but that's a joint decision to get together. You knew getting together, there was children and there's child support to be paid and to be received.
Yeah.
And in some situations, it feels unfair one-sided than the other because typically it is to some degree. And so I think that's okay though, because that's part of it. And when you become one, having a joint account that you work through, that you're forced to work through, really does create a much deeper trust and a much more closeness, a deeper level of intimacy is really what it would do.
Yeah, because you're not thinking of the big picture. Like, what if one of you, their business closes, and then they don't have finances coming in for a while until they find somebody else? What is it like? Oh, that's okay. I'll pay your portion of the bills until you get back on your feet.
We've seen that before.
I know. That's why I'm like,
There's not no
thinking.
Oneness.
Yeah, it's not thinking of the big picture. Like, if one of you gets hurt and you are, off work, short-term, long-term disability or whatever, it's just, I don't know. To me, it's just easier. It's just easier to have one account.
It is because we live our life a lot different than oneness. I mean, we live it as one, as both of us, not a single living together, doing marriage together. So, it's just really important, I believe, and we believe that having a joint account can make a massive difference, even if you're not comfortable with that. It's important that you do. Okay, so
get out of your comfort zone.
That's right. Point number 2 is you need to sit down and make a budget.
Yes.
Make a budget.
Make a budget. So it is very important to Josh and I have two different budgeting styles. Josh's budget is in his brain. So it's like finances come in, he keeps all these different things going in his brain, and then he's like, "Oh, I forgot about this one. That's okay. I can shift this around and flip-flop this and do this," which stresses me the crap out because I'm like, I need to see the whole month. I need to see what bills are coming out when. This is how much we bring in per month. This is how this is going to go. And so it's very important to sit down and talk about, this is how much we bring in per month. How much are we going to save? How much are we going to tithe? How, what bills, where can we cut? And it's good to revisit these things together, and know where your budget is and know where your savings is and know like what you're going to do with, like, what if you guys want to go on vacation? Like, you guys need to be on the same page with these things. And I think it's really, really important to talk about it because you potentially each have different spending styles. Now, in Josh and I's relationship, it's really bad because both of us have spending styles. Spend is the key word in that.
Yeah, we're weird about saving and not saving. Like, one of us will get on a kick and the other one is not. And it's kind of, we flip-flop back and forth.
Yeah.
And so, well, when we have a common goal, we easily budget together. And Christy says, we switched years ago. Like, it's been a lot of years now. Like, in the beginning when our life was had a lot less money and budgeting was really a lot simpler, to be completely honest with you. We had a less amount of bills.
We had like 6.
We had like 6 bills, but they still put us in the red every single month.
Yeah.
And so it was easier for me, because it's the way that I do it, is to shift things around. Like, I have a really good memory. Now we've had to shift things over the years where Christy really handles the bill book because she likes, number one, she likes doing it. It stresses her out, but she likes doing it.
We have like 30 bills.
We have like 30 bills, and that's like including all the little tiny things. And she goes and she makes his printout and she uses a little whiteout, and she's just like, that's her. And that's good, right? And I empower her to do that. But it's not like it's Christy's bill book, right? It's our bill book, and we sit down and we go over the budget, right? When child support was an aspect to all this stuff, we had to kind of figure all that out, whether it was consistent or inconsistent. We can't rely on it. And, so we have to sit down and we have to go through this consistently. You have to make a budget and you have to revisit it. Now, it's not Christy's budget or Josh's budget. It's our budget. And we bring in all of our things. We've had friends that had brought in major amounts of debt into the relationship. We didn't have that, but some do. And now we take on as that's our debt. That's a singular debt now. How are we going to work through this together? What's that grin for?
And that's where the openness. Okay, so openness and honesty before you get married to talk about all these things is key too. So you're not like trying to figure it all out after you get married. So you need to go back and watch our podcast, Openness and Honesty.
I think that was last week, wasn't it?
No.
A couple weeks ago?
Yeah. No. I think it was a while ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was just recently. Anyway, but yes, you're right though. These are things that have to be revealed.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, and we'll get into another point of that, but
yeah.
But it's important that you sit down and you make a budget, right? And there's multiple things. Number one, you're accountable with each other on a budget, right? Christine and I have found out a way to we do save money for common things, and we've had to figure it out. And we're like, okay, when we know we really want to save for something, we know how to do it.
I know.
We do though.
It's like the saying that's like, if you give yourself a week to clean the house, you're going to take a week. If you give yourself a day, you're going to take a day. So it's no different. Like, we get a budget and it's like, oh man, we have a goal. We're going on vacation. We need to save this much money by this day. We make it happen.
We do.
But it's like, oh, we want to save this much money, to start building towards what we should be saving money for. We always have a reason why we need to spend it.
Always a reason. Yeah. Always a reason to go. But that's why it's important to make a budget and to stick to it. It's for togetherness. Number 3 is, and this is really important, don't hide money.
Don't hide your money.
Don't hide your money.
Don't hide it. Well, and that just stems from, it has actually nothing to do with finances. It has everything to do with honesty. So if you're hiding things from your spouse, whether it be money, text messages, emails, I mean, anything in your life that you're doing, even snack foods in the house, okay? Don't be hiding snack foods and keeping them from your spouse. But anything that you're hiding from your spouse is wrong. It allows the foothold to get in a little bit of, dishonesty. I was trying to think of another word for dishonesty there, but deception. To deceive and, and it's like, once you make them small little compromise, we've done a podcast on that before too. Once you do these small little compromises, those aren't compromises to you anymore. That's the norm. So your compromises actually start to become more and more and more detrimental to your relationship because they start to be not small anymore. They're large compromises that you're doing. So don't hide money from your spouse, please. I mean, if you're going to hide it from anybody, hide it from you both. So like Josh and I have to be like, okay, the only way we save money if we actually withdraw money and hide it and put it in our safe so we can't see it. And we both talk about it and we both withdraw and put it in our safe. Now, right now, there's $0 in there. So that just goes to show you how good we are at it.
I think it's really important people understand, when you're coming from when you get divorced, if you get a divorce and then you're going into a new family, you really feel like this is mine. We get very possessive about things. We get possessive about our kids. We get possessive about our money, especially if you were a saver and your last spouse was a spender. And now you feel like, oh my goodness, I've been able to recoup, right? And now you're going into this new relationship and you're like, yeah, you're kind of not going to tell me what I can and can't do with this money. And so I'm not going to tell you. Like growing up, my dad always called his money mad money, right? And it was this amount of money that he had that was whatever undisclosed amount. Whether my mom knew about it or didn't know about it, didn't really matter. It was dad's mad money. And when dad had enough mad money, he just went and spent it on whatever dad wanted to spend it on. Now, I believe in mad money, but mad money needs to be decided upon by both of you. You do not hide that. Now, we want to be able to have freedom to do and spend what we want. Maybe you can say, hey, spouse, how about we decide on, $50 a week? We don't have to talk about it. I like to spend $50 a week on whatever I want. You can too. Boom, no problem. Maybe it's less, maybe it's more.
That's
but it's
$200 a month.
But it's decide, well, whatever it is, $5 a week, whatever it is, but my point is you want to be able to have that freedom to be able to go and spend, $10 here, $5 here, 50, 100, whatever your budget is, and have that. Or you will feel like you have to hide it. And that's why communicating about that is so very vitally important.
Yeah. Money is, the Bible even says the money is the root of all evil, right? So the love of money, it's the root of all evil. So once you start loving money more than your marriage, which is actually what you're telling God and you're telling the world, if you are lying about it, hiding it, hoarding it, coveting it, that anything that you do that with in life more than God, number one, it becomes your God. And so you need to make sure that you're fully transparent, vulnerable, and open with your spouse and with each other about where you're at with your money, what you're going to be spending it on, because you guys can grow together, with the money. Like it's like anything else.
Yeah, you got to make sure you're not trying to be selfish about it and justify the reasons why it's okay for you to hide it. I mean, our goal should be to justify the reasons why we want to make our marriage stronger, not why we want to justify to do things because we want to do them.
Right.
Or I didn't get to do this in my last marriage, so you're not going to tell me how to do it in this marriage. That's just really poor communication, because if you're getting into a relationship that everything is controlled, then you're probably getting into a relationship you shouldn't be getting into, number one, or there's just not enough conversation that's been had around all of these things. Or you're trying to be manipulative with your own money, and things, and you're trying to do things that are just, they're not justified within your relationship. That's why it's really important. You can't hide these things. It'll end badly. I mean, 70% of all second marriages end in divorce. Why?
I was going to share that at the next point.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry. I can't read your mind on that stuff. But it's important that we understand why. And 95% of it is deception, lies, and mistrust. And that's the truth.
Well, really quick, too, I wanted to talk about, like, when my mom got married. I shouldn't have said that. When a person I knew got married for the third time, it was a woman, and she was getting married for the third time. And the person that she was marrying, it was his second marriage. Okay, so in his first divorce, his then ex-wife took him for everything he had.
To the cleaners.
Like literally, he had a house that was empty pretty much. There was no furnishings in it. There was nothing. He had to start all over. And so he got really hurt because he loved his ex-wife. He was in love with her, and she left him abruptly, and it really broke him. Well, when they got together, the woman was never really responsible or never really had a career, always had, this was her third marriage, always had husbands that took care of her. So when they went to get married, he asked her to sign a prenup. And she called me and she was pretty upset about it because she's like, should I sign this prenup? Should I not sign this prenup? And I'm like, well, if you put yourself in his shoes, do you plan on ever divorcing him? No. Okay. And he says that his money is your money as long as you're married. Like, you don't, it's yours. You have to think that he got really burnt recently and really hurt. And maybe you just need to give him time to get over it. To me, signing it, now I don't believe in it. If you're getting married, you're entering it, trusting each other now. Remarriages and things like that become a little bit hairy.
Yeah,
so
a
if you
little
really
messy.
love the person and you're like, no, we're never going to get divorced, the prenup will never even come into play. It's not even going to make a difference. So
It's usually just a butthurt thing. That's why.
yeah. And if you love them, you'd understand a little bit from their point of view and just be like, well, I'm never letting them divorce me anyway, so I'll just sign it.
true.
So that's something else too. Try to think of the other person's side of it. Like, why are they hiding it? Like, if you find out your spouse is hiding it, it really just is open for another conversation then. Like, why were they hiding it? Were they really burnt in the last marriage? That's a healing thing that you guys need to work through together.
Yeah.
Because they can't continue. You can't continue to lie to each other. You can't continue to hide things from each other. So you have to have a plan,
Yeah, and that really leads us into the very last point we want to make about this. And a lot of times, why do people hide money? And the reason why is because of children. And especially in blended families. But our point is, don't let the kids run the show.
Yeah, this was difficult for Josh and I in the beginning because I really am all about fairness. So I wanted to spend the same amount of money on all the kids when it came to us. And I tried to apply a black and white general thing over our whole family. So it didn't matter what was happening on the outside of us for emotions. Like, if someone was talking bad about us outside the home, it didn't matter. We didn't do that in here. Once the kids get into our bubble, it matters what we're doing. And I was trying to do that also with money. So I'm like, nope, all the kids get the same amount spent on them for school. All the kids, it doesn't matter what the other side's doing. Well, when it came to our family, it actually did. And it took us a few years and actually me getting emotional about it and angry and bringing it up to Josh, because I really felt like my kids actually, it wasn't the way I felt. My kids were getting the short end of the stick when it came to things because their dad didn't pay child support. Their dad didn't buy them things. He said he didn't have any money. And then we would go out and try to spend the same amount of money on each of them. But then Josh's kids, their grandma on their mom's side would just purchase clothes to them like every other week, constantly buying them shoes and clothes and all the stuff. So his kids were constantly having new clothes. So finally one day I was just like, this isn't fair. Like, I need to spend more money. And it was more of a me thing than a him thing.
But I agreed, though.
He did agree. That's why I'm saying, like, I have to go out and spend more money on my kids. I need to get them more clothes. We can't spend the same amount. It's just not fair. And he was like, that's fine. Let's do that then. It was more of me because, fairness is so important to me. But you have to sit down and talk about what works best for your family and be honest with how it's working. Like, if you have kids from the other side that are just constantly, that's the thing, like they're constantly getting showered with clothes. Okay, you may need to buy the other kids spend a little bit more money extra on them to get them clothes. It's not that big a deal.
No, and I think, it's real easy to get lost up in the fairness thing and feeling like things are fair or unfair. It is really, really easy. That's where communicating with your partner is super important, right? I could have easily said, yeah, but I don't care what the clothes that my ex-mother-in-law buys my kids. I don't care about that stuff. We're not spending the extra money.
Yeah.
I could have easily said that, right? And stood my ground and argued about it.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to fight about that. It didn't matter to me. And she was right. I felt bad. I'm like, right, she does do all these things. And yeah, I do want to make sure that your kids be able to have nicer things and, be able to feel confident and stuff. And it did work out.
Yeah.
And we didn't break the bank doing it, right? We went secondhand shops and Salvation Army, and we got, really smart about the way that we bought all these things. And it really, really, really worked out. But the whole point of fairness, though, is usually the kid, there's a squeaky wheel within the family, right? Child.
At least one.
That always is like, it's not fair. This is unfair. And then the bio parent to that child is like, you're right. It isn't fair. And so let's make it fair for you. And we end up going overboard, right? And
Yeah.
then that ends up dictating how we spend our finances. And that becomes a major weight between us. So early on in our relationship, my son wanted to play hockey. And hockey is not a cheap sport. We kind of got bamboozled into it a little bit because we didn't realize how expensive it was. He come home one day and he was like, his best friend's dad was a hockey coach, which I didn't even know. And he's like, hey, Josh can rollerblade pretty good. Can he ice skate? I'm like, he's never ice skated before. He goes, hey. He goes, well, I have a hockey team, He goes, I'd like for Josh to come and play with us.
He didn't bamboozle us on purpose.
No,
He
it was
players.
not intentional, right?
Yeah.
He wanted
we
Josh to come
to
play.
The sport.
Right. And so we're like, yeah, sure. That would be awesome. Josh would love that. I'm like, we don't have the money to buy the equipment. No problem. I have all the equipment. Great. So we show up to the meeting. Next thing you know, it's like $3,000 for him to play.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now I can't tell my son no. He gets to play with his best friend, all this other stuff. Well, needless to say, my logical wife, that this is not her son, is like, are you dumb? Like, we do not have $3,000. We can barely pay our rent. And I'm like, we'll figure it out. And that caused a massive amount of tension between us because I allowed my son to kind of dictate this for like a year. And it was rough.
Yeah, but I don't regret that now. And my problem is I get caught up on what ifs a lot. And sometimes that's good and sometimes it's bad. You need to be able to see the big picture. My thing to him at the time was too, like, what if he plays and then one of my sons want to play? We can't tell them no if we haven't told him no. So then that doubles the cost of it. And it's like, and then what if one of them wants to play another sport, maybe not hockey, that costs just as much? We can't tell them. So then I start playing the what if games. Yeah. Okay, let's do the big scenario. We're going to say yes to him. Now, what if this person wants to, and this kid, we had 4 kids. Yeah. Next thing you know, that could turn into 12. We're taking out personal loans to put the kids through sports. So that was my thing. And the thing that turned out is my son just wanted to play soccer. And soccer isn't that expensive. You need pads.
Even travel soccer was way less money.
Yeah, way less money. Yeah. So it was like, after that started coming out and no one ever else wanted to play hockey, it did squeeze us extremely, extremely tight. We did have some arguments about it, but I also was worried that what if other people wanted to play a sport that was no, we can't tell them no.
But I left all logic out the window was my point of this.
Yeah.
I left all logic out the window. I saw my son wanted to do this, and my son should be able to do this because I was an only boy and my parents didn't believe in sports.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to go out and buy my own, cross country shoes, and my parents were like, if that's what you want to do, figure out a way to make it happen, and that's just the way that it was. So I was raised that way. So I'm like, I will never be that way as a father or a parent, because I appreciate the sports. I know how important it can be for our children. So I got blinders on and I let my son dictate or run the show when it came to this financial obligation when we absolutely did not have the funds to do it.
And why are these things so important? This is what I was really thinking about today. Like, we do these podcasts and talk about these little things that to some of you may be like, oh my gosh, seriously, we have to talk about all of these things. I mean, if you listen to any of our other podcasts, it's like talking things through with the kids and talking about love languages and talking about schedules and talking about how are you going to deal with the ex and how are you going to parent. All of these things. Yes, it's very important. You want to know why? Because you've already gotten a divorce once. And once you allow yourself to crack or go against the Bible one time, it's a lot easier to justify to do it again. So it's like, I've already got divorced once. I mean, if I was going to go to hell for that, I'm already on my way. So if this one ticks me off too much, I might as well just divorce him too.
Yeah.
One
foot out.
You have, the 1 foot out. You have to really believe, like, I should not have gotten a divorce. Josh and I believe that. Like, if we were in the same walk that with God that we are now, which we weren't, we don't want people to get divorces. No. If you're a Christian, you believe in God and you're trying to be a Christ follower as much as humanly possible, there is no reason biblically that you should get a divorce unless there's adultery involved, which is in the Bible. Other than that, there are no other reasons. So unless
physical abuse, and yes, there's extreme things.
Extreme things. Yes. But not because, we can't decide on finances or we can't decide on parenting styles or he makes me mad, he keeps spending my money or he lies to me or he hides things from me. You guys need to work this out. And once you just choose to I'm
Close
not
the
going
door
to
on
try
it.
anymore.
Yep.
And then you have to be like, okay, Josh and I are in our second marriage. Divorce is not an option. Yes, we did do it once. It sucked.
Ugh.
Divorce costs like thousands of dollars. So, no, we need to make this work. And we want our marriage to be strong. We want it to succeed. We want God to be at the center of it. You have to want these things. You
Yeah.
have to talk about all these stupid little things that people are like, oh my gosh, we have to do this again. Talk about it. Yes,
Yeah.
you do. Yes. Over and over and over again.
Yeah, you know, and that I'm glad that you brought that up, because if we would have done it right the first time, we wouldn't have to deal with a lot of these issues, right? And the truth is, we didn't do it right the first time.
We didn't.
And we can't, and it's real important you don't lie to yourself and make yourself believe you did everything perfect and none of it was your fault in the first marriage. And it's an easy lie to get caught up in.
Denial,
It's
that's
not
what
my
that's
fault.
called.
It's high levels of denial. But we don't just talk about wanting to not get divorced. We don't talk about divorce. It's not even available for even a discussion.
No.
Like, I guarantee you 1,000% we will never get divorced, you know? And why is that? Because I make sure every day that I do something about that so it doesn't happen. I do it every single day. And sometimes it's through grit teeth.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not because I'm super happy and joyful to do it. It's because it's important to me. And tomorrow will be a better day. And sometimes I'm putting all the effort in and sometimes she's putting all the effort in.
Right.
And I wake up every day thinking I'm just so grateful and thankful for the marriage that I do have. And I'm thankful that I get to work on it today. And that's true. And money is hard.
Well, and a huge part of it too, like the denial thing brought this up to me, is we did a 4-part series on the 12 steps because we've worked through the 12 steps of sobriety. We did a 4-part series on our podcast, 12 Steps for a Blended Family. And step 1 is denial. You cannot be in denial with yourself about money, about your marriage. You can't. You have to step out of denial, girlfriend, and be honest with yourself. Everything is not his fault. A lot of times we're emotional and we like to say, oh, he's a man-child and I always have to take care of him. No, you don't. No, you don't. You have to focus on the things you can control. So
it's true. Money, it's hard. And the love of money is the root of all evil, but that's the whole point of being in love with each other first, putting Christ at the center. And then your next most important relationship on this planet absolutely should be your spouse.
Yeah.
Especially in a blended family. And it's easy to put everything else around it and shape it differently because things are different. You can't treat it differently. Because if you want to get the same result as you got last time in your marriage, which is an end of it, then you'll guarantee to treat this differently. And we want to make sure that things are handled differently. And money is hard.
Yep.
It's kids and money, people. Those are the reasons why people get divorced. It is. And you have to understand that if you can pressure cook this whole money concept and say, we're going to figure it out no matter what, we're going to do it together, we're in it together, we're going to grind through this. And we're going to come to an agreement through this process of finances, whether we like it or not. And because I care about you and I care about our marriage that much, it will work out so well in your favor, even when you both are bad at spending money and it becomes stressful. At least you're on the same page and you guys can work to a better result for each other.
Yep.
And it's so important. So I want to thank everybody for being here so very much. And if you guys have any topics or anything, please let us know. Send us
your emails too, so you can be on our email list.
You could be on the email list. Yeah, we send out a blog once a week. So if you want to do that, you can go to joshandchristygroce.com. And right on there, you can just sign up for our email list. And we don't send spam or anything like that. We just typically once a week, we'll send out a blog that we do. So we want to thank everybody for being here, and we'll see you next Tuesday at 7.
Bye.